Hi, and welcome back to Continual. Tonight we're going across the pond and we're going to go visit our brethren who are sleuths and mystery solvers of all sorts that have that nice little funny accent. But before we go too far, I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and let's see who all is here on the case with us tonight. So, John, you are up first.
Hello, I'm John L. French, a retired crime scene investigator, having done 35 years in the streets of Baltimore. I write all sorts of books, but mostly because of my former job, I write a lot of mystery and crime.
Jenny?
Hi, I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for Dell Books. I also write in every length and genre and under a variety of pen names. But as Gini Koch, I write a female Sherlock Holmes who is set in present-day Los Angeles.
Lola?
My name is Lola Strickland, author of Trudy Lim's Spaceship Captain Earth Detective.
Deb?
Hey, I'm Deb Marlowe. I write Regency historical romance, and I have a Victorian mystery series coming out. The third book's coming out this week, and it's called The Kieran Levitt Mysteries.
Matthew?
I'm Matthew Saunders. I actually write mostly historical fantasy, usually with a mystery element or two. But I'm a huge history nerd and Anglophile, so I love, everything, pretty much everything British, but especially the mysteries.
So I want to start with the fun question of how did you get your introduction in to the idea of British mysteries in print, in film, TV, whatever the case was? For me, the first one I really remember is actually Agatha Christie. And it was Murder on the Orient Express, one of the old movie versions of it when I was a kid. And that's one of those things that's always stuck with me. I've always had a great love of Agatha Christie and all of those fun tales. So, John, what was kind of your introduction for
introduction to British mystery? The first one I read was Sherlock Holmes, the Adventure of the Speckled Band. Read it in school as part of the first book of stories. From there, I went to Agatha Christie, mostly Hercule Poirot, but there was also the Mysterious Mr. Band, which is probably the strangest thing. That was my introduction.
Jenny?
I was reading The Complete Sherlock Holmes at 7, so that's my intro. And my second follow-up was, really couldn't count because that's O. Henry and was set in America. I didn't hit Agatha Christie until much later, but I was a Holmes girl from a young age.
Lola?
Okay, so mine were movies. My mother and I both loved the Poirot movies with Peter Ustinov, so much so when the Poirot TV show came out with David Suchet, I was like, no, he's not Poirot. He's not my Poirot. I'm not going to watch it. So I didn't watch it for a long time till I watched it. I was like, oh, I love this guy. This is awesome. And then another one, oh my God. So when I was a kid, Young Sherlock Holmes came out. And I had such a crush on the guy. His name is, I'm trying to look it up, Nicholas Rowe. And I had such a crush on him. He was so cute. Oh my God. And he played Sherlock Holmes. And I just love him so much. In fact, I saw him in something recently and I was like, he got old. And I'm like, oh, I got old too. That's how that works. Okay. So TV and movies movies as a kid.
Deb?
So I did see Young Sherlock Holmes. I did watch that as a kid, and I did really enjoy that. And it did lead me to read Sherlock. But my first real big glom was Elizabeth Peters' Amelia Peabody mysteries, which I just adored. Oh my gosh, love me some Emerson. And that really set me off on the road, and I started looking for more, and I just read a bunch. I loved Bruce Alexander's Blind Justice and Murder on Grub Street. It was about Sir John Fielding, who was an actual historical figure who was the magistrate in the Bow Street office. So, and I just been going ever since. And now I watch a lot of British mysteries, and I love Vera, and I love so many of them. Since I'm a historical girl, I'm really addicted to The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, which is also based on a real historical figure. So, but I just keep looking for more because I love them.
Matthew?
It was Agatha Christie for me too. I think it was in middle school, and the Scholastic Book Fair came to school, and they had some Agatha Christie's in the book fair, and I think it was a Murder on the Orient Express that I picked up and read, and then just kept reading them. And like I said, for me, because I'm such a huge Anglophile, for me, in addition to the mystery part, it was like taking a trip to England and spending a nice holiday. Even though there was a dead body, it was still a nice holiday. So that I always loved that aspect of it too. Especially with Agatha Christie, she, was just, pleasant time with some distant relatives, and then, we solved a mystery.
Well, and I mean, as everybody's talked about a little bit, I mean, obviously Sherlock Holmes has been formative for all of us in some way, shape, or form. I mean, you can't help but love the original Sherlock Holmes. And the way I came to Sherlock Holmes was not long after Agatha Christie, was watching Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes, the nice good old black and whites with that. And so I remember watching that, and I was like, oh yeah, well, that's books. Okay, great. Gimme. And plowing through the entire collected works of Sherlock Holmes and going through the entire story. And I still remember hitting the point where Holmes dies, right? Leaps off the falls and all of that, and looking at myself going, even when I was, I don't know, I was probably 7 or 8, looking and going, that sounds a little implausible even for Holmes. It's not logical. So Jenny, how did you really come to Holmes, and what did that do for you, or maybe to you at the time, and kind of how has that influence continued working forward for you?
My mother was a teacher, and so she was always assigning me things to read, right? So, and Holmes and O. Henry are tied to me because I was reading them literally at the same time. So she gave me here, read these 6 stories. And I'm like, there's this giant volume of O. Henry. In fact, there are 2 giant volumes, right? And then there's this huge collected works of Sherlock Holmes. So why are you only having me read one thing, right? So, well, these are the best ones. Well, in her opinion. So I read both of them cover to cover. And I love Sherlock Holmes. It cemented my love of mysteries beyond belief. It meant, for me, Holmes is number 1. All others are number 2 or lower, basically, because they're just so well done, and the clues are all there. And it makes me angry how it affected me is if you, the writer, or you, the director, or the screenwriter, or whatever medium, do not give the audience the clues for them to be able to solve the mystery, I hate you forever. Okay? You're dead to me. You've done a disservice. The last minute, oh, here comes someone that you've never heard of before, who's never been mentioned, and that person solves the case. Yeah, that is actually probably how it works in police work in reality. But in a murder mystery or any kind of mystery, because sometimes they're theft, right? They're not, or they're menacing somebody hasn't died. If you don't give me the clues, you could solve the dancing man. If you wanted to put forth the same effort Sherlock Holmes puts forth, you have the exact same stuff, and he's told you it's a cipher, right? You could solve the dancing man without him. I just, wanted to read and see what he did versus make myself do it. But for me in writing mysteries, all the clues are there. Okay. I make sure they're there and then I hide them because Doyle hid them in plain sight. They're right there. It's very similar to The Sixth Sense, which this movie is 25 years old. So,
Sorry.
Right. M. Night puts everything out there. It is really clear. If you know what's actually happened, every clue is right there, but you don't see it because you get wrapped up in the other things around. So for me, that meant everything I write has, what's going on is probably very clearly there, but I've hidden it in the ways that, and attempting to do in the way the master did, so to speak. So it made me trickier and pissed off when people aren't tricky.
So then who is your Sherlock?
I have 3. Okay, number 1, Jeremy. I'll fight anybody who doesn't say Jeremy Brett was literally the embodiment of Holmes from the page. But the 2 offshoots I really, really love. I love Johnny Lee Miller's interpretation from Elementary.
Yeah.
I like and there's so many interpretations of him. I just love the character grows. And I just think the way he did it was excellent. And then I have to admit, I really love the Robert Downey Jr. steampunk version. Those 3. Pretty much the rest of them, I'm like, I cannot. Most of the rest of them, like, right. There's some that were fine. And part of what I consider a good Holmes is that you also had a good Watson. And I think all 3 have excellent Watsons. Whereas, like, I refuse to like Basil Rathbone because his Watson sucks. So, fight me.
All right, Lola. So
All right.
how'd you come to Holmes and who is your Holmes?
Well, besides young Sherlock Holmes, I do remember the early movies, Hound of the Baskervilles and all those. And I remember Rathbone, he had that definitive look. To me, that was Sherlock Holmes because I never read the book, so I didn't know what the book said. But that deer hat and the pipe, I mean, that's still in my head, even all these years later, after the Elementary, after the Robert Downey Jr. The image, the Rathbone image is still in my head. Now, who is my Sherlock Holmes? This is a deep cut. And I tried to find my copy and I can't find it. There was a comic book about 30 years ago, graphic novel, called Honor Among Punks. And you have to spell it with a U in the honor or else you won't find it, which I tried to do today. And I was like, why did they care? Why did they care? Oh, I forgot the U because I'm not British. So yeah, Honor Among Punks. And it's a complete retelling. So it's alternate history. It's 1980s London, but the steampunk era, it's steampunk. The industrial revolution, it never stopped. It's still like the 1800s, but it's the 1980s. And our Sherlock Holmes is actually named Sharon Ford, and she's got the punk haircut and everything, and she's got her own Watson. And it's just, I've found it really fascinating. I mean, I was 22 when it came out, so I wasn't really a child, but I was like a child because I'm immature. And I just thought it was so cool. Oh my God, it's Victorian and she's a punk and it's dark and mysterious and grimy and London. I just love it. And so even 30 years later, I still get really excited talking about it.
Deb?
Well, I read Sherlock when I was younger, but I really loved Elementary too, and I just loved that version of Watson too. But I thought, oh, then I saw the Robert Downey Jr. and I thought, oh yeah, because I love steampunk, so I was totally into that. But honestly, for me, I love Cumberbatch. That's probably blasphemous, but I just think he does that so well. And I love that Moriarty and I love that Watson. And I love that series. Does it for me.
Matthew?
Well, I remember early on reading Hound of the Baskervilles. And, like I said, I write historical fiction, and usually what I do is kind of has a sort of Gothic element to it as well. And I always loved, even though there's a logical explanation for that, in the story, the whole, superstition of the black dog on the moors and things like, that really spoke to me when I read that. And so, that's one of my favorites and still one of my favorites. As far as my Sherlock, it's a hard one. I love John Lee Miller's in Elementary. I enjoyed watching him because it was such a unique take on the character. But then I also like Robert Downey Jr. Specifically because when I write, fight scenes are the bane of my existence. Like I just that's just one thing I cannot bring myself to do is when I have to write a fight scene. Those are just hard for me for some reason. And so I have actually gone and watched those segments in those movies where he does the fight scene slow motion in his head and goes over all of the punches and moves and things just to block out the fight scene that I'm trying to write, using what he's doing, going over it in his head. So for that reason, I like those movies, and I do like him as an actor. I think he does a very good job in those roles, and I like the Jude Law as Watson. I think it's a take on the character that's in a lot of ways closer to the original than what most people do. Showing his weaknesses and his, sort of what he's dealing with and grappling with in life, and not just focused on Sherlock entirely. So that would be mine.
John,
Well,
who's
first
your
of all,
Sherlock?
gotta have that.
How did I know you'd have a deer stalker?
Awesome.
Andy.
As I said, my introduction to Holmes was in high school. After that, I saw a Mr. Magoo's Fairy Tales, in which he was Watson to Holmes. Had nothing. I mean, it was okay. My mother got me a copy of The Hound of the Baskervilles. My father introduced me to the Basil Rathbone movies. And one day some years later, I went and bought all the paperbacks of, Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, etc. And essentially binge read them and loved them. So, after that, there was, I love Sherlock Holmes, and I would read the spin-offs and drifted into Solar Ponds for a while, and that's how I got onto Sherlock Holmes. As far as my Sherlock Holmes, it has, first of all, forgive me, everybody, I did not like Elementary. I just could not buy into the premise. Benedict Cumberbatch was Sherlock Holmes, but it was set in London, and it did kind of follow things, even though they twisted things around. But I would have to go with Jeremy Brett, and the two men who played Watson did it excellently. So that was, and it's just a shame that Jeremy Brett could not be with us long enough to finish the stories. To me, he was as good a Sherlock Holmes as David Suchet was as Hercule Poirot. But let me say that movie-wise, my favorite Sherlock Holmes was Ian Richardson, who did the Sign of Four, and he did Hound of the Baskervilles. And if you ever get a chance, I think they might be on Amazon Prime, but if you ever get a chance, he plays a little more or a little less serious Holmes. And he knows that he's the smartest guy, but he doesn't have to show that's how confident he is. And he'll just kind of give police kind of like the police will say, well, where should we start searching? And he'll kind of look up at the attic door and, just, oh, and then one of them will go, well, why don't we try the attic? But so Jeremy Brett is my Holmes, but I really enjoy Ian Richardson.
Well, let's jump forward a little bit further, right? So, I mean, because this kind of really sets a great foundation for everything we get out of British mystery, right? And we'll come back and talk a little bit about what creates that aura, that difference in storytelling and the way that they approach the mystery. But if we look at stuff that's, say, in the last 25 years, there's a lot of really great original series. There's also a lot of retellings of Poirot, even though he's French. And
Belgium. You're out. You're gone. Sorry.
Belgium.
No.
Sorry, anyway.
Sorry.
One of those things. He's not British, which is what we're talking about tonight. But
in Britain, but he's in Britain for most of his life.
Britain, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a BBC show. But looking at some of the fun storytelling, like I really have enjoyed Luther, Broadchurch, some of these series that just came out. I just watched the Luther movie not long ago. So Lola, what series grab you that's kind of a more modern, whether it's more set in a more modern take or not, but what's grabbing you out of kind of these British mystery series these days? What are you liking, and what is it about them that are grabbing you now?
Agatha Raisin. I just love Agatha Raisin. If y'all have BritBox, check it out. Is it BritBox or Acorn? I have them both. I used to go back and forth between Acorn and BritBox because I'm basically broke, but I was like, screw it. I'm going to do it. I got both of them. I'm making the sacrifice. So I've got both. So I can't remember which one it's on, but I love it. It's been around for a few years. It's based on a series of novels, which I started to read the novels, but then I got mad because she did something that I didn't like. So I stopped reading the novels, but then the TV show got to that point, and so I have to deal with it. I'm like, I don't like it, but I had to get over it. So it's a cozy mystery. She's a very odd character. She comes from the PR world, and she dresses very garishly. She thinks she's very smart looking, but she's very garish. And she's always just very kind of, I don't know, just kind of prissy and odd, but you like her. And so she retires from her PR career and she moves to the Cotswolds, where they're not garish. They're really very laid back and not a lot of pastels or bold colors, where she's got her bold colors and her, Milano Blahlik shoes or whatever. And so she kind of starts solving mysteries because that's what you do. When you retire and move to the Cotswolds, you start solving mysteries. And of course, she gets her own business, and she's got these friends who are around her and, love interest and all this stuff. And they help her out. And it's just a really pleasant, cozy mystery series. And I got so upset because the last episode came out and I'm like, more, but there were not more. So I have to wait till they make more. And, I don't know. They're on equity contracts, so hopefully they can make more. I don't know. But I'm just waiting. I'm like, more Agatha, please.
Deb, how about you? What is it you're into these days?
I'm a BritBox addict too.
Yeah.
I like the gamut. I like the really the really intense, characters like Luther. That's fun. Especially when I think they have, the villain and they have a really great relationship with his villains. But I like the quirky stuff too. So like McDonald and Dobbs. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I love that dude. Yes.
Just so cute. Oh, just adorable. I love those characters and how they mesh and spark off of each other. And I'm going to do a cheat here. I'm going to throw out in the spirit of the earlier question about can we do the Empire. Amazon Prime has a really campy, smart, funny detective duo series. Only one season so far.
Deadlock.
Deadlock. Oh my gosh, set in Australia. I mean, I loved that. I laughed out loud my whole way through that series. So that's a really good one I recommend.
I'm making a note.
I loved
I
it
just
so
did.
much. I mean, it made me so happy. It made my heart sing. It's a
I
comedy
know.
too.
And just, so comedy and like small quirky village that you just want to go back and visit again. So I really hope they set it up for season 2. I really hope they make it
soon. I'm like, more. And it was a week by week one too. So I was like,
Matthew, how about you?
So I had when I was getting ready for this panel, I had remembered something I saw on the site formerly known as Twitter. Yes, it is now. And it's been a while, but this holds up. This holds up. It's I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there are 3 types of British crime shows. Number 1, title is a surname, makes you sad. Number 2, title is a place name, makes you sad. Number 3, gosh, isn't murder positively beastly? Oh, well, Merson let it ruin the village's painting of fences and sheep competition. It's the 50th anniversary after all. So, that's your, those are your 3 choices. So you've got Luther, you've got Broadchurch.
Midsummer Murder. There's the third. The third is Midsummer Murder.
So, I mean, that's just it. I'm going to cheat too, because I don't have a chance to watch a lot of television these days. But there's one book series I've read that's written it's the Rivers of London series by Baron.
Yes.
Oh, I love that one. I love
and that's set in London. That's not cheating.
Set in London. It's not. It's a police procedural mostly, so it falls in the category that way. But it's also fantasy because he's dealing with crimes involving ghosts and British folklore creatures. So it's not necessarily a mystery, but I enjoy those because it's kind of it's a match. You get both. It's the best of both worlds. There you get the whole kind of grittiness of the British police procedural, but then you also you get the fantasy with him having to deal with those folklore creatures, which again appeals to me just because I
really like that one too. I like that series a lot. And I heard that one has been selected to be made into a television show. So fingers crossed it works out. So, and I don't know if anybody reads C.S. Harris. The Sebastian St. Cyr mysteries is set in the Regency period. And that has also been picked up for television. So the long running series, very popular.
What's the name of it?
It's the Sebastian St. Cyr, and it's by C.S. Harris.
Okay, I'm looking it up.
John, what are you into these days?
Okay, first of all, let me just share this.
Move it in front of your face. Oh,
Okay.
It's not my book. It's not my book. My daughter got it for me for Christmas. Well, it's hilarious. Okay. I started off with this whole watching British mysteries on streaming networks with Lewis, Inspector Lewis. My wife got me the box set for Christmas, and I figured, well, let me watch a few British procedural. How good can it get? Yeah, it gets there. But if I had to choose between C.S. Lewis and Midsummer Murder, it would be Midsummer Murder. It's a long-running series. The characters are great. The mysteries are good. And it's just plain strange.
25 years.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, we can basically do either a drinking game or a bingo card. Let me see. Character gets killed by impalement. Or character gets found dead in a vat of wine. Check that off.
In a yoga pose.
In a yoga pose. Or, something like that. And it's at the point now where none of the original cast are still there, but it's still good. If I may, again, like everyone else is, cheating, Right up there with Midsummer Murders is a New Zealand show called Broken. It's sort of Midsummer Murders meets Murder, She Wrote, in that it's the same attitude of Midsummer Murders, but it's set in the town of Brokenwood where everybody knows each other, and the characters weave in and out of the story. Some of them even go to jail and come back once they're out. As far as literature concerned, let me recommend it's a short series, only 6 books, by H.L. Marcy, Marsay, and it's about Chief Inspector Shadow, and it's set in modern day York, and it's wonderful. He's the old-fashioned cop. He's saddled with a new, up-to-date, always on his cell phone partner. Inspector Shadow is kind of a recluse. He lives on a houseboat, so it's a British mystery. And but it was one of these. I picked up the first one. It was either free or 99 cents on Amazon. And once I read that, well, let's just say over the next month, I read the remaining.
Yeah.
Going back to to the other side of the world. I like Carrie Greenwood's Phryne Fisher books, so not the TV show, but the books so much that I order them from Australia direct from the publisher when they come out. I don't want to wait 6 months for the American.
Yeah, and just talking about Midsummer Murders, there happens to be an actor in there that led to me getting a very particular nickname a couple of times when I've worked out of Europe.
Wow.
And that actor would be John Nettles.
I love that. That's the newer one. New. He's like 12 years older. But yeah.
But the nickname I picked up because of that was one of his earlier series, Bergerac. And so I used to get called Bergerac all the time, which meant I had to then go watch the series to go find out exactly how abused I was being. And it's it's an older series, but it's a fun one to catch.
Mm-hmm.
So Jenny?
No one picked mine. I'm super excited. We got BritBox because I love Father Brown. I cannot get enough Father Brown. They need to do 1 million more seasons of Father Brown. I love I'm blanking on Mr. Weasley. It's Father Brown. I can't remember his name. I feel embarrassed. I love that show. Matthew just listed the 3 types. I don't like the dark ones. So we watched Rebus a couple of times, and I love the actor. And is Scotland really this bad? I never want to go. I know better than to watch Luther. It's going to make me sad. It depresses me. Broadchurch, same thing. I like the 3rd. Oh, there's been a murder, but the fete must go on. That is my cuppa. That is my jam. So in addition to Father Brown, the newer series, the older one we haven't gotten into yet because I'm worried it will affect my enjoyment of the newer Father Brown. Shakespeare in Hathaway is adorable. I love it so much, and I am just hoping we get another season. I don't know if we're going to or not. And then I was shocked you didn't mention this one, Lola. Death in Paradise. Okay.
Well, we were going to talk about it. We were going to go all into it. So
Death in Paradise, I adore. Okay, it's beautiful because it's in the Caribbean, and you've got these fish out of water detectives. We're on our 4th detective now in season, I think 12, and it's great. Now, sadly, Beyond Paradise went dour, and it took Humphrey and made him unhappy and sad, which was okay for an episode or 2, but it's not okay for a whole series, and focused on pregnancy issues instead of murder. I don't want to focus on anything sad. I'm not watching a cozy to focus on anything sad. I am watching a cozy to have fun, right? So that's why I'm just Deadlock. It made you laugh. Great new show.
Yes,
right? I don't.
It's a satire.
Yeah, I'm watching this stuff for escapism. This is my like, oh, it's been a hard day. I need a cozy mystery stat, right? Those
I
are
need a
mine.
dead
So
body, but I can laugh.
I need to relax with murder before bed.
yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
it gets calm.
So now we know exactly which amongst you listen to the murder true crime podcast.
Yeah.
I do that too.
I don't know. I don't know true crime. True crime will keep me up at night. So no. So that's my.
Yeah.
So, but if I would give it all up for Father Brown, basically.
Yeah, I don't do I don't do a lot of true crime either because I feel like I should be paid overtime when I do. But actually, Ginny, Beyond Paradise is not a murder mystery.
It's supposed to be.
No, it's there. I watched the whole season.
Yeah,
there are no murders in that show.
I know. It's a total lie for what you expect.
Well, no, it's actually what not all crimes to be investigated are murders.
Right.
And I like the idea that they were concentrating on crimes other than murder with the same, thing. There's a mystery to be solved, but it's not who did it. It's how did they get into the house,
right?
Or what happened to the sheep, or something like that, or why were 12 red cars stolen?
Right. All of that was cool. What I hated was because they're simpler crimes, we get loaded with all of Humphrey and his chick's drama, and that is not what I signed up for.
I like that. I was really afraid. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was really afraid on how they were going to end episode 6. How they were going to end episode 6, and I thought it was going to go one way, and then thanks be to God, it went a completely different direction, and I loved it. And there is going to be a season 2 starting with a Christmas episode.
Right. Okay. So my thing was the only savior in that is the last episode of the season, which, okay, I'm like, can we just keep them here? This show made me hate, I'm blanking on her name. This show made me hate Sally, and I loved the character, and I hate her right now. I mean, there's nothing about her that I like.
I could understand her, but I just didn't. I think the last episode wrapped everything up. Oh, and there is going to be a season 13 of Death in Paradise.
Oh, good.
And from what I understand, the whole cast is coming back.
Awesome.
I'm not sure about the lizard, but everybody else is coming.
The lizard had better be back.
He's barbecued. So
sorry, we just turned this into the Death in Paradise fan discussion, but
I can go make a cup of tea and come back.
We're back now. We're back now.
But we were kind of starting to go down the path I want to talk about, right? There's reasons when we look at how in the States we do mysteries, we do murder mysteries, we do all the procedurals. UK procedurals are very different. I mean, there's obviously a lot of carryovers, but I mean, as we see, interpretations done between the two sides of the pond, right? We can take what is inspired by the same series and look at how they're different. So, Deb, when you think about some of your favorite series, what is it specifically about these British mysteries that really is appealing to you? Why is it these in particular? We're just kind of talking about the 3 varieties by which.
Well, even within the 3 varieties, as a character-driven writer, I appreciate quirky characters more than I can say, and British mysteries are full of them. I mean, they're on the main stage and they fill out the rest of the cast, right? I just love how deep they dive into their leading characters' quirks and backgrounds. And I'm always, whenever I watch contemporary mysteries, it's so different than like American mysteries. There's they don't carry guns. There's no gun battles, It's all a battle of wits. It's all, they walk fearlessly. I mean, well, not always fearlessly, but I mean, bravely into these dangerous situations unarmed. And I just find that very,
mystifying.
Like, wow.
How did you do that? You don't do that here.
I mean, I love watching a whole show without a gun battle. Yes.
Well, it makes it more surprising when it does happen because what was I watching? I've been watching a few different shows where, the DCI gets shot, and that's a whole season ender. And they come back and he's still feeling the effects. So it's a really big deal if someone gets shot.
Mhm.
Would that be what was it? Dale and Pasco?
I'm thinking of Endeavor. Thursday got
Okay.
shot, and George Dentley got shot, and I think there are a few others where somebody got shot.
And I think
Yeah,
Endeavor's only got one more season.
No, Endeavor's done.
Or is
And
it
I
done now?
cried
Okay.
like a little tiny baby. I cried so
Okay,
hard.
I've got one more season to go. So, Matthew, on your side, what is it for you that draws you in? As you say, you're an Anglophile, and you have studied and broken it down extensively. But what is it about the story, the setting? What is it about it that pulls you in?
I agree too. It's the quirky characters. The British tend to sort of lean into that a little bit more than the Americans sometimes do. What intrigued me, I guess, was always the focus on manners, I guess, for lack of a better. Especially in the old ones, like we're talking about with Agatha Christie and even Sherlock Holmes and everything else. The class system is still so much in place in Great Britain. Even today, it's not much less so, but especially back then, and who you were when you got murdered mattered as to how they treated the investigation in a way that isn't quite the same as here, and so it affects the whole story when someone of a high level gets murdered versus someone at a low level, and there's so much you can play with there, which Agatha Christie did. A lot of the good writers in that played with that difference in social status, difference in class that we don't have here. And like I said, the manners, like the customs, I just love, how focused on, being mannerly the British detectives, usually are when they're investigating, in the cozies, especially when they're investigating these, and it can, how they use that to their advantage. Like, especially when you think of someone like Miss Marple, who's this, little old polite lady that means no one harm. She's just coming over for a visit, just to chat for the afternoon because she doesn't have anything to do, and you're going to indulge her because she's just this little old harmless lady that's lonely and wants someone to talk to and everything. And then the next thing you know, you're in handcuffs because she caught you red-handed. So that's stuff like that that's always kind of appealed to me about them.
John,
I like how the class system, especially in historicals, will add layers of complication to the suspects too, because they can't question a highborn person the way they can, somebody who's just a regular Joe off the street. And I like how that does add layers to the investigations.
There's always a scene where someone says, "Well, I play golf with the, I forgot what the high guy is, but the superintendent. I play golf with superintendent. Blah blah blah. He'll be hearing about this." There's always that scene.
So, John, what is it for you?
First of all, it is a different. No matter what you watch, George Dentley, which is kind of dark, or Shakespeare and Hathaway, which is goofy. Or Midsummer Murders, which is fun to watch, even though Midsummer County probably has a murder rate higher than higher than Cabot Cove. They even mentioned it once on the show where it was like, Inspector, there seems to be quite a lot of murders in Midsummer. Yes, that has been noted. So it's a different world. There are different manners. I like how how the detectives can go into the pub and have a pint, except for in Midsummer Murders, Barnaby has a pint.
They don't.
His sergeant has to drink orange juice because he's driving.
Okay.
And it's like, it's, the rules are slightly different, the command structure. In some of them, the ones I watched, at least, I haven't noticed. So, I mean, there is a class system, and a lot of people get served and your grace and, lordships and all that. But the ones I've seen really aren't all that impressed by it, because one thing about these shows is you very seldom see the supervisors. I mean, I think on Midsummer Murders, there was maybe a half a season where the chief constable got involved in things and
I don't remember that.
Made a pain in the arse of himself. And but usually it's sort of like, how's the case coming? Oh, fine, ma'am, fine. Very well. Well, this is important. Yes, ma'am, we'll sort it out soon. And that's it. They go right to the crime solving, and no matter how many people get killed in weird and bizarre and sometimes entertaining ways, it's still basically your classic mystery where they go around, they talk to suspects. Forensics does not play a big part in any of this, so I don't have to worry about screaming at the TV, which I do a lot, by the way, at Death in Paradise, because their forensics are as fast as loose as I've ever seen. And it's just like they talk. The chief inspector talks to somebody, the sergeant talks to somebody, talks to people. They gather together every once in a while. They gather around the whiteboard and talk about it. And all of a sudden, like, the chief inspector will be at his daughter's play, or he'll be having dinner, or somebody will say something. He goes, "That's it. I've got to go." And he runs, and there's usually the gathering of suspects, because that's traditional in this sort of mystery. And he'll run through all the reasons why someone's, this person did it or that person did it, but none of you did it. It was, well, let's face it, talking Midsummer Murders, it was the vicar. They don't have anything. They just basically nick the vicar.
Jenny?
Well, I love the word nick, by the way, because when you steal something, you nick it.
It's true.
When you get arrested for stealing something, you're nicked.
Right.
And when you get thrown into custody, you're placed in the nick.
That's true.
Without the word nick, these British mysteries could not exist.
When we get nicked, we bleed.
Right?
Yes.
Can I mention something that I just thought of? I think one of the things I love about these mysteries is there's none of that messy legal stuff, like going to court and having to prove it and stuff. It's just done. We figured it out. Game over. You're going to jail forever, bud. So none of that messy, like, technicality, we didn't get a warrant. None of that silly stuff.
Every once in a while, they'll go into the courtroom, but that's usually for, at the prelude of a mystery. Like the detective, even though he had to arrest someone, is not fully convinced that person is guilty. Yeah. And he'll be sitting in the courtroom and hear something, and all of a sudden everything comes into place, and all that.
Yeah.
So Jenny, for you, what is it about these nice dark and bleak and you like the fun ones?
I like the fun ones.
Yeah.
Well, I like the quirky characters and everything else, but one of the things both my husband and I like is that they're set, what we're watching is set in beautiful locations. I mean, we want to do the cozy mystery tour of England and, in the British Isles, and then go to the cozy mystery tour in the Caribbean, right? Yeah, this looks great. But also, one of the things I really like is that their cast is real people. So, like, well, I have cast us in our show. Jim is our crusty captain, and Lola is our quirky little tech. She's the one that's going to like find all this stuff on the internet. John's our CSI. Sorry, typecasting. Deb is our I got it all together
historian.
Yeah, Matthew is our quirky detective, and I'm his partner. I'm his partner who's got the bubbly personality, and he's out there thinking. We could literally, I mean, none of us are unattractive people, but we are not movie star quality. We could walk right now if we could all fake the accents and walk right onto the set of any British movie, any British procedural, cozy, whatever, and we can have roles. And it's refreshing because when you look at American television, no one is allowed to be ugly. Okay, even the ugly people aren't all that ugly. Sometimes they are, but they're almost
quirky,
always
beautiful.
bad guys, right? No one is allowed to look like a normal human being. There's no normal people there. Whereas after your first shock of, oh, that's what everybody looks like, you just sort of roll in. These are just normal people. And I really enjoy that. For me, it makes it much more real. Like I said, I've cast our show. We're ready to roll. We don't have to do anything else, right? It's just it, and this is our little ensemble, and we're so fun, and everybody loves. We're the fun kind. I don't want the gloom.
I'll be in the pub. Just
Yes,
That's my wheelhouse.
You are a crusty commander who we always find in the pub. Doesn't that makes him fun, right? Okay, we're doing all this stuff. Matthew is up there thinking hard and figuring things out, and the rest of us are totally missing, right? I mean, there's all sorts of fun stuff, but we all look like people, so we're very relatable, and that for me is one of the biggest things. I think it's why I love them so much.
And we're quirky.
Well, and everybody's quirky. I like the quirky because you're not watching. I'm watching for the characters, which is why everything I know, Father Brown, Shakespeare and Hathaway, Death in Paris. Those are all character-driven shows, right? And my husband and I will joke, oh, every one of them, and I mean every mystery all around the world. They all have the mummy. They all have the clergy. They all have the mistaken identity. Oh, this one. I mean, the plots, there are only so many, right? But the British ones, you can feel like it's really happening. You're like there. You could be walking along with Father Brown and no one would notice if you were dressed in period. So that to me makes them just feel a little bit more real, like you're actually spending time with real people, not getting to watch actors do their thing.
So
Now let me just interject. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna have to we'll probably have to set our mystery on Guernsey to keep it nice and cozy, because otherwise we put it in Glasgow where I can go have a proper pint and a couple of scotch.
Right, it has to be someplace pretty. Yeah.
All right, we'll go to Guernsey. They have cows. Sorry, Lola.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Now we need to find out how good the health in the NIH's vision insurance is, because we all need it. So we need to do some research. It's probably better than ours. Yeah.
All six of us are wearing glasses.
Right.
Wait, we're the nearsighted team. I
can't see my own murder board.
Oh my God, that's the greatest. I can write our show right now.
Okay. One of the things I like, and this seems to be in a lot of them, I know Lewis, Midsummer Murders, Brokenwood are the quirky medical examiners. Fleur, I mean, Midsummer had some great ones.
Vera,
my favorite one, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, Vera.
She's the one on Brokenwood. She's Russian. She refers to everything Russia. She's got the hots for the senior sergeant, and a lot of the times medical examiners make the show. Lewis wound up sleeping with
marrying her.
Lewis.
Spoiler.
Well, no, wait a minute. I'm not sure they married.
No, they did. I know my Lewis. That was like the last episode. They went and got married. That was like, yeah, they did.
So,
yeah, but it took them a couple seasons.
So Matthew, as we're coming on wrapping this one up, but let's say we've got somebody out there who's not spent a whole lot of time with, these fun, different mystery series. What's the one series that you're going to tell somebody, oh yeah, you got to try this out. You want to watch this. This is what's going to grab you. What's the one series for you you're going to start somebody on?
Wow.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. No. I mean, I'm gonna have to fall back to books again. I have to go back to Agatha Christie because that's the one that grabbed me. That's gonna be my gold standard. And I'm partial to Hercule Poirot. I know he's not British. He's a permanent citizen of the British Isles. It's just, but those are the ones that really got hold of me, and they're clever. She's good at having not just clever solutions, but clever deaths, I guess. There's a element of glamour to them because it's kind of her height was sort of that late 20s, early 30s. That's when Murder on the Express, Death on the Nile, thinking Appointment with Death, I think was one. The ones like that where they were sort of more adventure to them. And so I would have to say that just pick up an Agatha Christie, and it doesn't really matter the order you read them in. Just grab one and go with it, and see where it takes you.
Don?
Okay, for television, I would have to say start with Midsummer Murder. That is everything you'll want in a mystery. There's true mysteries. There is some personal stuff, but it's kept to a minimum. But I would have to say go with Midsummer Murder. The advantage is there's already 24 seasons, so you've got a lot to watch. As far as fiction, I would say go with, if you haven't read any, go with Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie. If you like the classics, there's Dorothy Sayers, there's Marjorie Allingham. Just look at the classics first, and then you can work your way up.
Jenny?
I am going to say I would recommend, for someone who's really never read or watched mysteries, they're entering it now. There is a reasonably new version of Why Didn't They Ask Evans? It's a 3-parter.
I like
that. I was going to say that one.
So it is excellent.
It's really good.
The older version is hideous. It was released like in last year or the year. Yeah, I think it was a 2021 release, 2022, something like that. Anyway, the most recent Why Didn't They Ask Evans is incredibly well done. It's got all the picturesque beauty. It's got quirky and adorable leads, and it's got a really twisty mystery that includes all those class elements that everybody was talking about. It's a 3-parter. It is Agatha Christie. It is not based on one of her enduring detectives, so you don't have to have any background in anything else. And that is where that is where if someone lands in front of me and says, I've never, ever watched a mystery. I don't even know if I want to read them. What should I do? I'm going to plop them down, and I'm going to watch Why Didn't They Ask Evans with them, enjoying it over and over again because it was excellent.
Lola?
I forgot the question.
Yeah.
What if somebody came and said, okay, I've never watched a British mystery. Where are you going to start them? Or I've never read one, never seen one. How that's possible, I don't know, but I'm sure that it's out. Someone is out there.
I'd ask them if they're a Ginny or if they are a hardcore, dark mystery person. If they're a hardcore dark mystery, I might say there's a show called Unforgotten. And I think it was PBS. I don't remember, but it had like 4 seasons, and it ends in a way that you never see TV shows end. I was like, they did it. No, they did. They did. So it is hardcore. It was rough. So I would recommend that one. If you like cute, I would definitely say, you know what, I'm going to say something that nobody said yet. There's a show called The Cleaner, and it's on, I think it's on BritBox.
BritBox.
Yeah, and it's so cute. And he plays a crime scene cleaner. And so every once in a while, you know, he kind of has to solve what happens. He kind of has to put it together. It's like, wait, you murdered the person, didn't you? Yeah. Okay, so that's cute. I would say you could watch that too.
Deb?
I totally agree with the why didn't they ask Evans? That's just really super well done. But also, I think that either of the Kenneth Branagh versions of Poirot are, you know, you don't like them? No.
Loathe them.
Really? I thought that would be a good introduction to somebody.
No, if you're going to do that, the Murder on the Orient Express with Lauren Bacall is so much better. Like night and day better. So, I mean, this is what you're suggesting, though. I'm grabbing that person and dragging them back to why didn't they ask Evans?
I would go. I mean, if you're trying to catch somebody who has no experience, you know, I don't know. It worked on my husband. Let me tell you that. He has no mystery experience and he enjoyed those movies.
Yeah, see, there you go.
So, but if you were going books, there's so many, but you know, I'm going to stay with my historical bent and say my first love, Amelia Peabody Mysteries, because it's got Egypt and just family saga and it goes on forever and and you just adorable, endearing characters. So,
well, before this grizzled old captain can go to the pub, we've got to shut the door on the chief house here. So before we can do that, we have to let everybody know where to find you guys. You know, website, social media, latest release you want to pimp. John, you're up first.
Okay, you can find my books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I'm on Facebook. My newest book is a somewhat strange mystery novel. It is called Detectives of the Abyss, Murder at Castle Dracula. The main character is Dr. Jane Watson, daughter of John Watson, goddaughter to Sherlock Holmes. She solves a couple preliminary crimes, including the traditional story about a will, and then goes on to the stranger ones and winds up solving several murders at Castle Dracula. So, and it's all, you know, aside from the fact you've got vampires, werewolves, etc. running around, it is, you know, it is a British mystery.
Jenny?
You can find me at GiniKoch.com. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky, and if you can get an invitation, yay! I don't have any. I got into the kindness of strangers, basically. I'm still on Twitter X, which is nowhere near as cool as Malcolm X. And I'm on Pinterest. My newest release is Dragoness, which is an anthology where I have a short story with my co-author, Vivi Bayless, King Arthur Dragon in Space Station 23's court. And then I actually have 3 releases that are in pre-release, and what that means is the publisher is racing to get me books for cons. So I have one of them for sure at Dragon Con and 2 more are coming, but I will be talking about all of them in upcoming hot off the presses. So you'll be able to hear about them right when they can be shared with the world, that you don't have to just meet me in person to get.
Lola?
And looking the last 20 minutes, I was wrong. I don't think they got married. Lewis and Hobson. Yeah, but I did solidify the relationship, so close, you know, and in their own hearts they were married. Anyways, you can find me online. I'm a writer and I do all kinds of other stuff. Just look for Lola Lariscy. You'll find either me or a bunch of dead old ladies who I'm related to.
Deb?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I have a release coming out on Friday. The third book in the Kieran Levitt mystery series is called Murder on the Mirrored Lake. I'm having an amazing time. My duo sleuths are a big giant blacksmith of a man who is a forge artist. So he's got like this big burly guy who has this artistic soul. And I have a very left brain, right brain heroine who creates automatons. She expresses her artistic side as well, making automatons, and they kind of fall into solving murders accidentally when she is accused of committing one. And I'm having such a ball with this. It's like historical mystery with a slow burn romance, and I'm having a great time with them. I hope, and hopefully I think my readers are too. So yay.
Matthew?
So my website is jmsaunders.com. You can find all of my links to my social media there, and also links to all of my books, which are available on Amazon. My last one is a Southern Gothic set in the 1960s, a small town in South Carolina, being terrorized by a werewolf who also happens to be a fugitive Nazi in hiding. And so the people in the town, some of them have figure out there's bad things happening and they have to stop it.
And you can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com, speculativefictionacademy.com, creatingprose.com, and of course here at ConTinual. And my latest release is actually the second edition of Business for Writers. And we'll go see all of you again soon. I've got to lock the cell door so I can go to the pub.
Thank you.